The day after the royal family's Christmas outing at Sandringham, social media platforms lit up with discussions about the brief, tense encounter between Queen Camilla and 5-year-old Prince Louis. What might have been dismissed as a minor moment in years past instead transformed into a full-fledged online phenomenon, thanks in large part to users rallying around the hashtag #SavePrinceLou. Within hours, snapshots of the young prince's animated expressions and the Queen's seemingly stern gaze began circulating on Twitter and Instagram, sparking spirited debates about protocol, parenting styles, and the often conflicting demands placed on royal children. Many who jumped to Prince Louis's defense felt he was simply embodying the boundless energy that comes with being 5 years old. They argued that Louis's joyful antics running up and down the walkway, waving enthusiastically at onlookers, brought a welcome sense of spontaneity to an otherwise ceremonious occasion. Countless social media posts, accompanied by the #SavePrinceLou hashtag, applauded him for keeping it real, insisting that no child, royal or otherwise, should be expected to adopt the cool composure of an adult. Supporters praised the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge for allowing their children to be themselves, drawing parallels to modern parenting trends that prioritize emotional health and self-expression. Meanwhile, another contingent found fault with what they perceived as Queen Camilla's reaction. Candid photos catching her mid-sentence or mid-frown were interpreted as evidence of disapproval, a reading that ignited criticism of her approach to dealing with children. "He's just 5, wrote one user on Twitter, racking up thousands of likes. "If the monarchy wants to stay relevant, they can't scold kids for being kids." Others noted that Camilla typically maintains a poised, reserved public persona, speculating that her demeanor during the walk might have been misread or merely a fleeting second captured at the wrong angle. However, not everyone embraced the #SavePrinceLou narrative. A smaller but vocal group of commentators pointed out that royals, regardless of age, are expected to meet certain standards of behavior, especially during formal events that attract large crowds and global media coverage. These voices suggested that the monarchy relies on a balance of tradition and accessibility. If that balance tips too far in one direction, it risks undermining the dignity of the institution. For them, Prince Louis's extra energetic display was a sign that stricter guidance might sometimes be necessary, lest public occasions devolve into chaos. As the debate raged online, various news outlets picked up the story, running headlines about family tensions and the monarchy's generational divide. Royal commentators made the rounds on television, weighing in with their own interpretations. Some insisted that the fuss would fade quickly, much like past controversies over young royals fidgeting on balconies or making faces during ceremonial processions. Others suggested the #SavePrinceLou movement was emblematic of a deeper shift in the public's attitude toward royal children, one that favors letting them experience childhood as freely as possible, even if that means momentary breaches of protocol. In the midst of it all, supporters of the royal family pointed out that a single, fleeting moment cannot capture an entire relationship. They reminded social media users that Queen Camilla has, on multiple occasions, been photographed chatting warmly with her step-grandchildren, including Prince Louis. They argued that while this Christmas incident might appear confrontational, it likely did not reflect the entirety of their dynamic. Public displays, they cautioned, can be misleading, especially when filtered through the lens of hastily snapped photos and viral commentary. Still, the #SavePrinceLou hashtag lingered for days, buoyed by memes showing Louis waving excitedly, memes featuring the Queen's supposed telling off, and everything in between. In a digital space that thrives on quick takes, the conversation stretched beyond the typical 24-hour news cycle, underscoring society's fascination with the monarchy and its next generation. Questions arose about how royal traditions will evolve to accommodate a new wave of young princes and princesses growing up in an era dominated by smartphones, online activism, and rapidly changing public values. By the end of the week, the fervor began to wane, replaced by speculation about the family's upcoming engagements and new photos of Prince Louis grinning alongside his siblings. Nonetheless, #SavePrinceLou had already left its mark. It showcased the striking power of social media to amplify even the smallest royal misstep or moment of playfulness into a national conversation about modern parenting and the monarchy's place in a contemporary world. For royal watchers and casual followers alike, it served as yet another example of how the House of Windsor continues to adapt or sometimes struggle to adapt to the unblinking eyes of an increasingly vocal public. Rumors of an awkward exchange between Queen Camilla and young Prince Louis first surfaced when onlookers noticed the Queen appearing momentarily tense during the royal family's Christmas walk at Sandringham. What initially looked like a typically festive outing soon took an unexpected turn, as the spirited 5-year-old's irrepressible energy seemed to clash with Camilla's desire for decorum. Onlookers reported that Prince Louis was, at one point, tugging insistently at the edge of his coat, then darting a few steps ahead to catch up with his siblings, a bundle of excitement in the crisp winter air. Queen Camilla, typically calm in public appearances, allegedly paused mid-stride, glancing toward the young prince with an expression that some interpreted as polite frustration. In that fleeting moment, watchers along the route sensed a subtle friction. The queen, whose public persona leans toward composure and formality, seemed to register Louis's rambunctious enthusiasm as out of sync with the solemn tone of the walk. A few attendees claimed to hear her speak in a soft but firm tone, presumably urging him to settle down. The boy, however, was fully caught up in his own festive delight, waving to spectators and occasionally dashing back to his parents, Prince William and Catherine, for reassurance. Speculation soon followed. Some suggested Camilla had grown accustomed to a more restrained style of royal engagement, making an exuberant child's unfiltered laughter or constant motion feel disruptive. Others reasoned the queen was simply concerned for Louis's safety among the crowd. Either way, the lingering image was of two different expectations colliding: the spontaneity of a lively child, and the traditional protocol Camilla herself had learned to uphold diligently over years of intense public scrutiny. For many observers, the episode revealed an ongoing tension in the royal household's evolving approach to child-rearing. Prince Louis's parents have famously embraced a gentler parenting style, one that encourages children to express themselves freely, even at formal events. This modern perspective can sometimes rub up against more conventional notions that demand subdued poise from even the youngest royals. Onlookers lining the route were divided. Some admired Prince Louis for injecting youthful cheer into a long-standing tradition, while others sympathized with Camilla, who might simply have been trying to maintain a refined atmosphere. By the following day, social media was awash with photos and comments dissecting every gesture. Some voices criticized the Queen for appearing too rigid. Others argued that Prince Louis should begin learning the complex ropes of royal life sooner rather than later. The palace declined to address the matter directly, leaving the public to form its own conclusions. In the end, the Christmas walk provided not only a glimpse into holiday festivities but also a telling portrait of how tension can arise when fresh childhood exuberance meets time-honored ceremony. Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, have quietly introduced a notably modern approach to raising their children, often referred to as gentle parenting, that sets them apart from older generations of the royal family. Unlike the strict protocols once expected of young princes and princesses, William and Kate place a strong emphasis on empathy, open communication, and emotional support in their household. Observers familiar with royal life have noticed that during public outings, the couple often kneels down to speak face-to-face with their children, fostering a sense of equality and respect. Those close to the family say this simple gesture goes beyond mere symbolism, allowing the children to feel heard and understood. Rather than imposing rigid rules or reprimanding them in public, William and Kate prefer calm discussions, guiding their children to recognize and articulate their emotions. According to sources, this approach is deeply influenced by William's own upbringing under Princess Diana, who believed that royal children should experience as much normalcy as possible. By echoing Diana's compassionate style, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge attempt to buffer their children from the more impersonal aspects of royal protocol, creating a home environment where curiosity and individuality are encouraged. When disagreements or mischief arise, William and Kate reportedly strive to address the root of the behavior instead of doling out harsh consequences. In practical terms, this can mean extra conversations at bedtime about what went wrong or how a situation could be handled differently in the future. Far from avoiding discipline altogether, they aim to ensure that any corrective measures include a learning component, rather than simply imposing punishment. This has attracted admiration from child development experts who champion methods that focus on growth, empathy, and resilience rather than a top-down hierarchy. Behind closed palace doors, the couple dedicates time to creative play and direct engagement, from participating in arts and crafts to cheering on their children during sports activities. William has even spoken publicly about his desire to pass on a love of nature and wildlife, reflecting a broader belief that learning through hands-on experiences can foster confidence and independence. Though the spotlight constantly hovers over their family, the Duke and Duchess appear intent on preserving each child's sense of security and emotional well-being. They have been known to request privacy during critical milestones, allowing Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis the freedom to develop away from incessant public scrutiny. This balance is delicate, especially as all three children, potential future heirs included, inherit a legacy of intense media attention. Nevertheless, William and Kate's dedication to gentle parenting seems to be reshaping traditional expectations. blending royal duties with a nurturing atmosphere that recognizes the importance of childhood wonder. Their approach may not shield their children from every challenge of royal life, but it offers a uniquely supportive framework through which George, Charlotte, and Louis can grow, learn, and ultimately define for themselves what it means to be part of the monarchy in the modern age. Long before contemporary royals like William and Kate embraced a child-centered approach, the British monarchy had a storied history of far stricter protocols governing the upbringing of princes and princesses. Decades ago, royal children were often introduced to formality from the moment they could walk. They were entrusted to an array of governesses and nannies, each tasked with shaping impeccable manners and unwavering poise. Accounts from inside past palaces tell of regimented daily schedules, where even playtime was carefully overseen to ensure that young heirs learned how to interact with grace rather than unbridled enthusiasm. Although these children frequently participated in lessons on etiquette, some rarely saw their parents except at scheduled intervals, reflecting an era in which close emotional bonds were secondary to cultivating regal composure. Such rigidity, however, was not merely a product of stuffy tradition. Royal families felt immense pressure to project stability and infallibility, especially through tumultuous periods of the 20th century. During the reign of George V and Queen Mary, for instance, the Great War and shifting social tides demanded that the monarchy serve as a steadying force. Their offspring were largely shielded from anything deemed frivolous, and every public appearance was orchestrated to convey the image of a faultless institution. Even after George VI unexpectedly ascended the throne, the emphasis remained on disciplined conduct. Queen Elizabeth II herself recalled a childhood in which she knew her daily routine down to the minute, guided by governesses who emphasized duty over personal whims. In the early years of her own reign, Queen Elizabeth II continued many of these customs, mindful of the significance of modeling unshakable decorum to a rapidly modernizing world. Stories from palace staff highlight moments when a young Prince Charles and Princess Anne were expected to stand motionless at public events, sometimes for hours, learning to mask boredom or discomfort for the sake of projecting a serene, almost mythic aura. Compassionate nannies might discreetly pass sweets to the children, but outward displays of informality or excess giggling were discouraged. Such strict training made even small breaches of protocol unthinkable, cementing the notion that royals were meant to be a class apart. Yet as decades passed, cultural transformations began to filter through the palace walls. Princess Diana famously broke new ground by insisting on hands-on involvement in raising Princes William and Harry, bringing them into closer contact with real-world experiences and ordinary people. Her warmth and readiness to bend certain rules introduced a fresh precedent, allowing royals to show their human side without compromising their responsibilities. Publicly photographed visits to amusement parks and unguarded displays of affection signaled to the monarchy and the nation that it was possible for highborn children to exhibit spontaneity without eroding the mystique of the crown. Fast forward to the present, and the contrast could hardly be more pronounced. William and Kate's household, though it still honors tradition, is guided by an emphasis on empathy, open conversation, and a willingness to let children express their emotional states. Instead of seeing occasional mischievousness or bursts of laughter as breaches of decorum, these moments are viewed as stepping stones to help young princes and princesses grow into well-rounded individuals. Although palace-ides continue to schedule every public engagement with precision, the differences in approach are stark. These younger royals seem more at ease greeting onlookers, cracking genuine smiles, and engaging in childlike banter that would have been nearly unthinkable in bygone generations. Some historians argue that the monarchy's survival partly depends on this evolution of upbringing. Without reflecting changing societal values such as nurturing emotional intelligence and encouraging open-mindedness, royal institutions risk appearing increasingly out of step. Others insist that time-honored formality remains central to the monarchy's appeal, warning that too much latitude might dilute the gravitas that sets royals apart. Whatever the perspective, the striking contrast between then and now underscores the monarchy's journey from tightly controlled childhoods to a more flexible, empathic environment. From the days when children in velvet frocks had to bow perfectly on cue, to the modern spectacle of small princes waving energetically at passers-by, the royal family's approach to raising its youngest members mirrors the shifting tides of public expectation and cultural progress. In an age where every raised eyebrow and quiet aside can go viral in a matter of minutes, the British royal family finds itself under a microscope more powerful than at any point in its long history. Newspapers, online tabloids, and an ever-expanding roster of social media channels have turned even routine outings into headline-grabbing spectacles, with reporters and fans alike dissecting each gesture for hidden meaning. According to insiders, senior members of the royal household recognize that public perception hinges on a precarious balance They must preserve the dignity of centuries-old tradition, while acknowledging the modern expectation for transparency. This tightrope act, however, becomes ever more perilous when children are involved, as their spontaneous actions often trigger a media whirlwind that no team of palace press officers can fully control. The press, always hungry for human interest angles, routinely zeroes in on the youngest royals. Even a single snapshot of a child yawning at a formal ceremony can ignite days of breathless commentary. Witnesses on Twitter might call it adorable, while tabloids dub it disrespectful. Meanwhile, paparazzi perched beyond palace gates or along procession routes capture every moment, from benign family banter to fleeting glances that can be spun into lurid narratives of disapproval or tension. These images, often stripped of context and reassembled for maximum intrigue, fuel an online echo chamber in which theories and criticisms proliferate faster than any official statement can clarify them. Behind the scenes, the palace's communications team navigates a minefield of expectations. Over the years, their approach to such scrutiny has evolved from stony silence to carefully crafted releases aimed at debunking rumors. Yet no press release, however measured, can extinguish the appetite for speculation. When a high-profile event unfolds, such as a holiday gathering or a rare public appearance by an entire branch of the royal family, media outlets scramble to produce content that will stand out amid the endless scroll of digital feeds. More often than not, it is the candid or imperfect moments that dominate the conversation, precisely because they offer a glimpse of genuine emotion in a tradition-laden world. In the thick of these viral firestorms, public opinion is rarely monolithic. Some critics argue that the monarchy has grown too informal, pointing to small breaches of protocol as evidence of declining standards. Others champion the more relaxed approach, seeing it as a sign that the royals are relatable and in step with contemporary family values. Yet there remains a persistent undercurrent of debate. How does one maintain regal mystique when live footage of a young royal's impulsive action can circle the globe within seconds? Insiders suggest there is no simple answer. Palace strategists attempt to highlight philanthropic achievements or state responsibilities, but these stories often struggle to extract and eclipse the excitement generated by a single spontaneous wave or a fleeting frown. The result is a media landscape where perceptions shift rapidly, guided by the latest viral clip or rumor. While some in royal circles lament the loss of a bygone era when newspapers towed a respectful line, younger members of the family seem resigned to, if not accepting of, the new reality. They understand that winning the public's favor may sometimes hinge on a clever social media post or an unexpected moment of childlike wonder. Still, the pendulum can swing the other way at any moment, as one unguarded interaction might unleash a flurry of headlines speculating about feuds, rule-breaking, or hidden turmoil. In this press-fueled storm, maintaining the family's carefully cultivated balance, upholding tradition, and connecting with an ever-scrutinizing public remains a challenge without a guaranteed formula for success. Amid the swirl of debate over young royals and modern parenting, many observers see these moments as indicative of a broader shift within the British monarchy itself. Where once the institution functioned as a bastion of rigid formality, closely guarded by protocols and time-honored ritual, it now appears more attuned to the expectations of the 21st century. Even the most traditional elements of the royal household have come to accept that the public values authenticity, an unapologetic display of real human connection, just as much as it appreciates centuries of pomp and circumstance. Prince Louis's spirited behavior, and the ensuing discussions it sparked, offer tangible evidence that royal children are no longer expected to mimic stoic adults at every turn. While certain commentators bemoan what they see as a loss of solemnity, others argue that this gradual evolution is precisely what will help the monarchy endure. Rather than resist the currents of change, the younger generation led by Prince William and Princess Catherine has chosen to meet them head-on, cultivating a more approachable, relatable image. Their decision to let children explore, question, and play in the public eye signals a willingness to adapt royal life to a modern reality. By weaving empathy and candidness into its public narrative, the monarchy enhances its chance of remaining relevant to those who once viewed it as distant. In this way, each small, unscripted moment, be it a child's spontaneous laughter or a proud parent's indulgent smile, demonstrates that the old order can coexist with new perspectives, lighting the path forward for an institution long rooted in history, yet determined to embrace the future.